we've allocated towards both productive social protection and unconditional social protection. Goods and universal program and other programs. So you see that the bulk of our budget is focusing on the social sector. It is definitely people oriented.
Cost of doing business to the Zimbabwean economy was tight.
So thank you very much. His Excellency, late this morning, launched NDS2, National Development Strategy 2, to cover the period 2026 to 2030, take us to upper middle income status. We have set a base to drive growth towards that 5% target by lowering the cost of doing business. So businesses can grow, employ more of our citizens, employ the youth, and just drive a growth. This is very important because we can only support our social programs, development programs, by taxing growth, by sharing on the upside of growth. So it's important to support growth as we go forward. And we feel that the 5% target is achievable. In the last 5 years, within the NDS 1, we've achieved an average growth rate of 5.6%. Surely we will make it towards the 5% target. That shouldn't be impossible.
GDP of $52 billion United States dollars, and yet many contend that is not translated to $3 as far as the profits of the individuals operating in this economy. How do you respond?
You know what? In any economy, there's inequality. There's some who have more resources than others. In other words, they have a bigger share of the GDP than others. It's a normal situation in a mixed economies such as ours, in an eclectic economy such as ours. You have those who have lower income, those who have high income. But we work on averages. So when we say that the average gross national income per capita per person is $3,200, that is correct. Statistically and mathematically, it is correct. But that's the average. That's the income per year, not per month, not per day, per year. So if you want to translate that then to per year, or rather per day, then we have to divide that by the number of days in a year. So that translates to the order of just above $8 per person per day. That's the average. There's some who have far less income, some who have far higher. Looking at all my friends here who are journalists, I don't want to benchmark you on that scale, but I suspect you are all have at least $1 a day to spend. So way above the poverty, extreme poverty levels. So look, what's important is that economies must grow, even if there is inequality. Why? Because growth also sells an economy, sells a country to both local and global investors. When you see an economy growing very strong, you want to invest there, especially if they're like Zimbabwe with an educated population, very articulate people, a high endowment in terms of natural resources, minerals, both above and below the ground. Above the ground, fertile lands and agriculture. You look at all of that plus all the other opportunities. You say, I want to go there. There's high growth, wonderful people, great endowment, natural resources. It sells the country. You haven't even said anything about inequality, which I mentioned earlier. I haven't said anything. But those then drive the growth that you need overall to then reduce inequality, the spread of this uneven distribution of wealth, which you achieved through policies. That's why when we look at taxation, we try to make it as fair as possible. And then when we look at things like social protection programs, when we say we want to protect the vulnerable, that is again is a distribution mechanism. You see what I'm talking about? So what's important is to drive that growth and then use policies to distribute the wealth around.
Minister, are we going to see any improvement in disbursement of funds, the budget that you just presented? Because you see that MDAs in the past have been complaining that the money is not there. Is there going to be money in your fiscal to distribute to the MDAs?
First of all, let me explain the disbursement delays. The biggest driver is what we've termed in Treasury over contract, where MDAs or ministries they love their work, they love their projects, then they overcontract in the building of roads, dams, various service providers, overcontracting well below, sorry, rather well above their own budget. There's also overcontracting in terms of use of vehicles, vehicle hiring, some of our biggest expenses. So all of that then has created arrears, which areas then starve critical projects of necessary cash, because we're trying to clear all the areas. That's the issue. But also the reason why some of them were by way doing the over-contracting and also overpricing, I must say, was because of the instability of the Zimbabwe dollar. So what they were doing, these contractors, they would add another 50%, 200%, because they thought the Zim dollar would fall, they would lose value. So they then do this overpricing. But now things are different. So going forward with the stable zinc, certainly they shouldn't be overpricing on the back of speculative predictions on the currency value. They shouldn't be that. This is a mistake. But number two, we've decided now to front load cash considerations ahead of budget releases. All this time we've been doing budget releases, but without the necessary cash for follow through. In the end, then the cash doesn't show up. Then, voila, we then have a delay. We're now going to do it the other way around. Match the budget release to the cash available. So those two things alone, plus circulars that we've issued to say no MDA shall contract beyond $2 million US dollars in value for any contract without the express consent of Treasury in writing. We want some order, and it shall be so. So things will improve. I'm very optimistic things will improve going forward.
But Minister, but keep in mind,
companies and individuals in different ways. So we've listened to Zimbabweans. They've said they want IMTT to be reviewed downwards. Others have even said, Minister, get rid of it. It is that extreme. So we've listened to those voices. We've reduced it. But I know that by reducing it, now government is underfunded. What do we do? That's why I say, can we tolerate a small, modest 0.5% increase in VAT? Other countries are way higher than Zimbabwe. Surely 0.5% can be managed. So then we can fund government programs. That's all.
well, Minister, that suffices just...
As government, we're just sharing on the upside of the increase in the gold price. Gold price, the last time you guys bought your gold coins, mostly at Tunya, the gold price was $2,000 US dollars per ounce. Today, it is closer to 4,500. Right? So government, meanwhile, royalties have stayed low. You know, we have not shared in the upside. And remember, this is not money for government, not for civil servants. It's for the citizens, it's for their programs. So we want to share on the upside. So that's why we've come up with that gradation in terms of royalties, 3, 5%, 10%. We think it is fair.
Fair enough, Minister.